Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back. Today's daf is Horayos daf Dalet. We're holding 17 lines off the top of the Amud. Okay, so what defines the Horayos of Bezdin? In order to trigger the process of bringing the par, a special cow, the par helem davar, which comes about when there was a concealment of a critical isser, a critical halacha, which triggered the chet, the act of sinning on account of the community, of most of the community. Hayru loy, without the loy. Bezdin lakars kalagov. So in yesterday's Mishnah we learned that there were certain parameters that have to be kept. Which means to say that if it was a blanket cancellation, an eradication of an entire concept, there's no Shabbos, there's no malachos of Shabbos, that's it. There's no Isur Nida, there's no Avodah Zarah. That doesn't qualify. The only time we reckon with this Horayos, the only time this ruling can have any sort of validity with respect to triggering the par helam davar system is if in fact they only sought to cancel, to negate a portion, an element, an aspect of a given concept. Tana Rabban. The pasuk says, "V'nelam davar." Davar was concealed from them. They erred. V'loi shetis alem or sheyaker ha mitzvah kul, as opposed to if the ruling endeavor to eradicate, to cancel the entire mitzvah. Ketzat, for instance, Amru, they declared, "Ein nida b'Torah." There's no Isra v'nida. Ein Shabbos b'Torah. Ein Avos Gechav b'Torah. Yachlu Chayavin, perhaps they would be obligated, which means to say it would trigger the par process. Talmud Bavli, no, the pasuk says "Nelam davar," only a thing, an aspect, a component. V'lo shetis mitzvah kul, as opposed to these examples where the whole mitzvah is being cancelled. Harayos, so in these cases they are patur. Aval, here comes phase 2 of the Bryce. Aval Amru, but let's say they acknowledge yesh nida b'Torah, there is a concept of a nida. But if one interacts with a shemeres yom keneged yom, so after the first 7 days, if she sees afterwards, it's called shemeres yom, she has to keep the next day clean, corresponding to the earlier day. So she sees today, she must examine tomorrow, make sure tomorrow is clean. So during that phase, she's called shemeres yom keneged yom. If one interacts with her, she's called a nida, but they mistakenly permitted it. So in general, they say yesh nida b'Torah. One may not interact with a nida. Aval haba al shemeres yom keneged yom is pater, but in that stage it's okay. Another example, yesh Shabbos b'Torah. In general, one has to keep the the halachos, 39 malachos, 39 forms of work has to be. But aval ha'moitzi mishus hayachal shus haram pater. But carrying out the street is okay. Another example, yesh avodas gechav b'Torah. Certainly, one may not worship idols, but bowing, no. Aval mishtachvet pater. So these are partial negations. Yachal yehu patur. Perhaps even in these, it would be pater. Talmud Bavli, that's the pasuk. V'nelam davar. It was concealed from them davar, an element. V'lo kalaguf, as opposed to the entire concept. Now, let's just go back to this last point. Yachal yehu patur. Even when it's a partial negation, they should be pater as well. What do you mean? So then, you ruled out the first set of examples because there was a total negation. You seem to be ruling out even partial negations. So then, we're out of business. When do we have the par? If even in these examples where it was a partial bittul, they're pater. And likewise, certainly if they cancel the entire concept, they're pater as well. You told me earlier they are patur. So then, my chayavin. Give me an example. Give me a case that they are chayav. It's nor this nor that. So as the Gemara, let me explain to you. The Tana of this Bryce, he was bothered with the following kasha. So, in phase 2 of the Bryce, after mentioning the cases where they partially negated things, we can still suggest davar kulei milsa mashma. V'nelam davar means the whole thing. So if it's a partial cancellation, it should be potter. Meaning, how do we know davar means partial? Talmud v'nelam davar. That's why the Brisa comes back and says, well, take a look at the pasuk, v'nelam davar, which means partial negation. My mashma, what do you find? What do we see that in the words of v'nelam davar? If anything, davar sounds like the entire concept was cancelled. Amar ulam, we have a drasha. We take the mem of v'nelam and we add it to the word davar. So we can apply the mem both ways. Amar ula karibe, we read it as v'nelam mi davar. The mem serves both purposes. It serves as the last letter of v'nelam and also as the first letter of davar. So part, mi davar, part of the concept was concealed, was forgotten from them. Hence we know a hira which sought to cancel the entire mitzvah doesn't count. A partial does. Chizki Amar, I have another source. Amakra v'asu achas mikol mitzvahs. Mikol mitzvahs. From the mitzvah. Mikol mitzvahs. Only a partial cancellation qualifies. V'lo kol mitzvahs. But not if the entire mitzvah was cancelled. Asks the Gemara, what do you mean? The word mitzvahs is plural, tarti mashma. So when you say from the mitzvahs, in effect what you're saying is one entire mitzvah from all those mitzvahs. But yeah, you cancel entire mitzvah. Amar Nachmar Yitzchak, mitzvahs ksiv. Once again, we apply a drasha based on the spelling, not the way it's read. It's read mitzvah, it's plural, but it's spelled mitzvahs with one vav. So it can be learned as singular. And we say mikol mitzvahs, from the mitzvah. What we're saying in effect is part of the mitzvah was cancelled. Rav Ashi Omar, another source, that it's only by partial negation, by way of exeru shava. Yolov davar, we apply exeru shava using the word davar, mentioned over here by the tzibur who sinned. Davar, and we connect it to the word davar, stated mizoke mamri by the from the rebellious elder. Because by the mizoke mamri it says ki yipolim imcha davar, le'sasar min hadavar ash yegid l'cha yom nismael. So the Torah warns the elder, don't stray from the directions of the bezdin, and over there it says min hadavar. So we connect the two contexts, using the word davar here, davar there, and we say mam mamre min hadavar l'kol davar, just like by the zokin mamre. It's specific to when he rebelled with respect to part of a concept, not totally rejecting the entire concept, just part. Af b'hira, likewise, in terms of the parallel davar shel tzibur, which is triggered by the hira of the bezdin, it follows the same rules. Davar v'lo kol haguf, only if it relates to part of something as opposed to the entire thing. Okay, so we learned so far. Hira is only valid if it sought to negate part as opposed to the entire thing. Here comes another condition. Amar Rabbi Mishmol. And bezin chayav. The bezin will only be chayiv in a par acheyaru if, in fact, their ruling related to something which was not a clear-cut pasuk in the Torah. It was something learned, midrabanan, Torah shabal peh, through the oral, system. Acheyaru bedavar. If it pertains to something she'enat stukin moedim, stukin were a group of fellows who would only, believe in Torah in the written law. They wouldn't accept anything which was unwritten. So, if the hayra of the bezdin erroneously permitted something which is not a clear-cut pasuk, it's something which technically the tzdukim don't accept, i.e., it's something which is Torah shabal peh. So this type of erroneous ruling qualifies for a par. Aval bedavar shat tzdukim moedboy, but if it pertains to something which is clear-cut in the Torah, even the tzdukim would accept it. This type of erroneous ruling doesn't trigger the system of the par paturin. They're exempt. You know why? Go take a chumash. That's not called a mistake. My time was zil. Go ahead, Karivei Rav. Go learn in the yeshiva with the Rebbe, right? Who? Right. So there's an element of negligence there. That's not called an erroneous ruling. Tanan. Okay, let's see if this jives with the examples discussed in the Mishnah. Yesh nida b'Torah. So the Bezdin acknowledge there's a nida, but aval haba. But if a husband who interacts with his wife when she's in the state of shemeres yom k'neged yom, right? Al shemeres yom k'neged yom is potter. The question is, that's clear cut in the Torah. There's no room for mistake on that. Shemeres yom k'neged yom. How ksiv there's a pasuk v'safra Allah. Yila, we have the extra pasuk to tell you malamed shesefer. She has to count, those extra days echad le'echad. So it's a blatant mistake. Why should that count as a hira betos? The answer is they overlooked, an element, an aspect which wasn't so clear cut. The Amri, the Bezdin, declared Hara Sharia, slight physical interaction during that period is okay. Gmarbiu Dasira, full interaction is us. So they overlooked this detail, which wasn't clear cut in the Torah. But it is in the Torah. Not miksiv. The pasuk says it's Makara era. Even Hara, even a slight physical interaction is a problem. How could they overlook that? The Amri, because they thought Kedarka Asira. They thought only conventional interaction is asr. Shaloi kedarka. Sharia, but the irregular way would be okay. Says the Gemara, once again, it's a blatant mistake. Haksiv. Mishkeve Isha. The pasuk refers to the different interactions as one, Mishkeve Isha, and basically you can't differentiate. So how could they say that hara by the Shemer Yisrael is mutter? How could they say Shloi Kedarka by the Shemer Yisrael is mutter? Has the same status as Kedarka. The answer is like this. The Amri, they figure Kedarka asa fil v'hara. If it's conventional, that even slight interaction will be asr. The Shloi Kedarka, Gmar Bio the asr. But if it's unconventional, then only full physical interaction is asr. Aval hara shari, but slight physical interaction will be mutter by the Shemer Yisrael. Ask the Gemara, if that's their mistake, that's what they overlooked, and this is something which is not clear in the Torah, it's only Torah Shabbat Peh, right? So then why define this to a Shemer Yisrael? The same mistake could have applied to a regular nida. They could have had the same, mistake. Says the Gemara, El Olam Kedarka. Rather, we're speaking about conventional interaction. The Bezdin promoted that hara bishadavo d'chsiva. They spoke about slight physical interaction, and they thought that only by a regular nida it would be asr, because the pasuk as Makara Hera discussed earlier, which covers even slight physical interaction, is speaking about regular nida bishadavo d'chsiva. They didn't realize it applies even to Shemer Yisrael Kenegadoim. They thought perhaps she has her own status. So that's an example of an oversight which relates to Torah Shabbat Peh. Another option would be the Amri. They thought Zava Leihavi be Imami. So an Isha who's past her regular period cycle, those are the days of Ziva. So she sees any blood at that point, it's considered irregular, and she becomes a Zava. They thought that's only holds true if she had that experience during daytime. Why? The pasuk in describing the Zava's experience alludes to daytime. Right? So it's something we have to know from tradition, from Torah Shabbat Peh, that in fact it's 24 hours, it doesn't matter, day or night. They overlooked that point. So you have a mistake, a serious mistake, which is rooted in Torah Shabbat Peh. Tanan, let's go to the next example of Shabbos. Your Shabbos B'Torah, certainly one has to keep the Shabbos, but carrying is okay. Aval HaMotzim, Rishus L'Rishus, carries from one domain to the other, he's potter, he's exempt, it's okay. V'amai, says the Gemara, what do you mean? It's a blatant mistake. Hayatzah HaKsiva. We have a pasuk that forbids carrying. Lo yisoitziu masm b'taichem. How can they overlook that? The Amri, because they said Hayatzah the asr. You can't carry out into the street. But you carry back into the home. And that's not a pasuk. That's just learned from Torah Shabbat Peh. Another option would be the Amri. They figured you can't carry both ways, but to pass or to throw, which is derived by Torah Shabbat Peh, that would be okay. Moshe v'zarek is shari, and that's what they overlooked. Tanan, third example is Avodah Zarah. Let's try to discover a partial mistake, a mistake which relates to Torah Shabbat Peh only. Tanan yishav is coming b'Torah. Certainly, one must refrain from worshiping idols. Aval mashtach v'pata, but bowing is okay. V'amai. How can they suggest bowing is okay? There's a pasuk that forbids bowing to any idol. The Amri, they thought, when is bowing asur kedarka? When bowing is considered the prescribed form of worship to this specific idol, then you can't do it. But if it's bowing to an idol which typically people don't bow to, that would be mutter. And in fact, that's a mistake, because bowing is a universal form of worship, which applies to which is asr. Torah forbids it even to idols which they typically don't bow to. And that's what they overlooked. Another option would be, the Amri, they figured, ishtachavaya gufa. with respect to the actual act of bowing, it has to be done kedarko de aser, only if it's done the way it's supposed to be. Full prostration on the floor, the isba pishut yadayim line, first full outstretched hands and feet. But if it's just a slight bow, that'll be okay, which of course was a mistake. But if without that full prostration, it would be okay, and that's their mistake. Boy Rav Yosef. So they maintain Shabbos, but they canceled, a certain aspect. What if they say in charisha b'Shabbos mal? There's no issue to plow on Shabbos. Rashi says just an example, because actually plowing there's a pasuk for that. I can't qualify. But just an example, they canceled, a specific malacha out of the 39 malachas. So on the one hand, you can say it doesn't qualify because it's a full, category. On the other hand, it's really only a subset. So in terms of the broader picture, Shabbos encompasses so much more than just this malacha or that malacha. Right? So as long as they kept the Shabbos intact, canceling a specific malacha is considered a partial cancellation. So which one is it? Is it partial or is it full? Shall we say, given the kamoida b'kulu milsa, since they're maintaining the rest of the Shabbos, kibbutz mixas, the ki mixas dam, it's considered like a partial cancellation and no more. On the other hand, given the karina v'charisha kolik, since they're canceling the entire concept of this specific malacha, i.e. plowing, it's considered a full cancellation. Kakirus guf dami, and it doesn't qualify. Tashma, let's try to prove it in the cases mentioned earlier. One of which is nida. Yesh nida b'Torah. Certainly a nida is asur. Aval haba al shemeres yoyim. Keneged yoyim potter, but in this state of shemeres yoyim, it's okay. This corresponds exactly to our example of the charisha, because you're keeping the general picture but negating a very serious category of it. But why does it qualify? You're eradicating the whole idea of shemeres yoyim. So although you're keeping the nida in general, but canceling a very critical aspect of it. Rav Yosef, no. Shemeres yoyim, the shemeres yoyim that we're speaking of, Kedeshani, we already explained it a minute ago. They didn't cancel the whole idea of shemeres yoyim, only, a certain element of it, a certain form of Isser. Right? So that's what's called only miktsas, as opposed to the Bezdin who canceled charisha in its entirety. That perhaps is considered a full cancellation and doesn't qualify. Let's go on to the next example, Tashma. Mishnah says your Shabbos b'Torah. Sure, we'll keep the Shabbos. Aval ha'moitzi. But if one carries into the street, is pot. Why is that considered partial? V'amai. Ha'karin. Lo yitzal kol ikar. They're canceling the concept of carrying. So now we just explained. They didn't cancel the entire carrying. They just negated a certain aspect, passing and throwing. Tashma. Third example is Avodah Zarah. Shabbos come b'Torah. Right? Let's keep the Avodah Zarah. Aval m'shtachar potter. So certainly Avodah Zarah is asur. Bowing is okay. So you've canceled bowing. V'amai. Why does that qualify? V'karin l'shtachva yikol ikar. You're eradicating the whole idea of bowing, which is an entity on its own. The answer is Amri. The answer was given. We already explained the shtachavaya. They maintained the Isser of bowing. They just allowed, an informal bow. As opposed to the Bezdin who canceled Charisha, perhaps that's considered a full cancellation. So we leave it unresolved. It comes a new Shaila, interesting Shaila. What if the Bezdin gets up and rules as follows? Hein Shabbos b'Shviyas Ma'u. You must keep Shabbos. You must refrain from the 39 forms of work throughout all the 6 years of the Shemitah cycle, but on the 7th year of the Shemitah cycle, where in any case you refrain from work in Eretz Yisrael, you don't plow the land, you can do malacha. Because in effect, the point is, when you work throughout the week, when you plow and you plant throughout the week, on Shabbos you rest. But if in any case you're not working throughout the week, you're not plowing and planting, there's no need to rest on Shabbos, and you can, dig a little hole, whatever you want to do, right? So that was their mistake. How would you treat this? Says the Gemara, but my toe. Now, let's try to go into their minds. What triggered this misunderstanding? Badein Kra. It was based on misinterpretation of the following pasuk. Pasuk says that on Shabbos you refrain from plowing, harvesting, right? And they thought Bizman de Gecharisha, during time period, during the 6 years of the Shemitah cycle, when work is performed during the week, Shabbos. one rests on Shabbos. However, on Shemitah, there's no plowing anyways on Shemitah. Like a Shabbos, no need to rest on Shabbos. And that was their mistake, of course. So what's the equation? Shall we say, given the Mekayim and Lo B'Shtar Shnei Shavua, since they're still maintaining Shabbos throughout the rest of this, the other 6 years of the Shemitah cycle, they're not touching that. They're only negating the Shabbos on Shemitah, which is only 1 out of 7. Shall we say, it's only a partial bittul, ki bittul mikzas, v'ki mikzas dami. It's considered only a partial bittul, and it works. And it's considered for the par. Or shall we say, the fact is, they're canceling Shabbos in its entirety on the 7th year. Since they're eradicating Shabbos on the 7th year, it's considered a full eradication and doesn't really qualify. It's not eligible for a par. So you have a case where you're fully canceling it, but only for a specific time. Is that called full cancellation? Or, with respect to the broader picture, it's only partial cancellation. Let me prove to you that it's considered partial and it qualifies. So we shift to a different topic of a Navi, a prophet, who at one point was a qualified Navi. And now he veered off, and he's now enticing the community to do bad things. He allegedly received nevuah, he's prophesying la'akar davar midivei Torah, to cancel, to negate the words of the Torah. Okay? He's permitting isurim chayev. He's severely punished. Levito mixas, loki mixas. But if he's only, attacking, certain elements of isurim, partial isurim, Reb Shimon Potter is Potter. But by the Zara, we learned this from Sukkim, by the way. This is back in Sanhedrin, if you recall. But when it comes to the Zara, we come down harder on him. There are Sukkim to tell us that there, even if it's a partial cancellation, he's fully responsible, held fully accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Even if it's only a partial negation, even if he claims he was told by Hashem, today we worship, tomorrow, batlo tomorrow, we negate it, meaning we only worship today and not tomorrow. So despite it only being a partial negation, he's going to be chayiv. So bottom line is, we see that the Mishnah presents this as an example of a partial negation. Today we worship, tomorrow we don't. So we see we learn from here that even though he's fully allowing of a desire, but since it's only for a short time span, that's called partial negation. So likewise, the Bezdin who cancels Shabbos only during the Shemitah year, it's considered a partial negation and it qualifies for the par. Shema Minu learned from here in Shabbos v'Shvius, when they cancel Shabbos on the Shemitah year, it's not considered a full uprooting, rather kibittul mikzas, v'ki mikzas dami, it's partial negation and partial acknowledgement. Shema Minu, that proves our point. Says the Mishnah, Hoyru Bezdin. So Sanhedrin, the Grand Court, issued their ruling, mistaken ruling. One of the members of the Sanhedrin realized their mistake, and he told them as much. He tells them, look, there was a pause, you make a mistake. So there's a certain, element of negligence here on their part. Or let's say the Chief Justice wasn't there. So they had a full count, but the head of the Bezdin wasn't there to confirm their ruling. They should have waited for him to come back before issuing this weighty, nationally, consequential heter. Or let's say a member of the Sanhedrin wasn't really qualified, wasn't really certified. He was a ger, or mamzer, or nosin, belonged to the nation of the Yasinim, who are not really qualified to serve on the Sanhedrin. He was an older man who hadn't born any children, in which case he doesn't have he hadn't had the opportunity to develop an element of compassion within himself, which is a prerequisite for serving in the Sanhedrin. So in all these situations, the verdict that was issued was not a valid ruling. So there's no power system in place. Shanamar Khan, because we have over here, with respect to the Sanhedrin issuing the ruling, we have the word Eidah. It says, Lashon HaPasuk is, Vim kol adas Yisrael yishku, or Me'enei ha'eda, we have Lashon Eda. referring to the Sanhedrin. We find the word Eda over there by Moshe Rabbeinu when he was instructed by Hashem to appoint, the Sanhedrin. Ma Eda Hamur Lahalan, just like the word Eda in reference to Moshe Rabbeinu, Kulon Ruin Loira. They all qualified, they all certified to serve as Dayanim. Af Eda Hamur Kan, likewise the Eda over here, and Kulon Ruin Loira, they all have to be certified and qualified in order to trigger the Par Helam Davar Shal Tibur system. Mishnah says, the chief, Dayan wasn't there, it aborts the process. Why? Minalan. How do we know why is this so? I'll tell you why. There's an element of negligence. Just like we said before. Why did the Chacham tell us earlier? If the mistake related to something which was blatant, a pasuk that even the tzdukim would agree to. In this case, they're pater. There's no par helam davar. You know why? There's an element of negligence. They should have learned, and they neglected to learn a basic fact. Likewise, in our case, they should not have proceeded without the chief justice around. Likewise, in our case, the mufla was not present, but turn their pater, which means to say, we don't treat it as, a proper Horayos bezin. Why? For the same reason. For a similar reason. Since they should have waited, confirmed it with the Roish Av bezin. They failed to do so. It's not considered a Hirah B'tos, and there goes the par system. Likewise, there was an unqualified member, doesn't work. Nemar Sham Eda. When Nemar Khan Eda, we compare it to Moshe Rabbeinu. Achu Kulam Ruin Leirah, they have to be all qualified and certified. How do we know that Moshe Rabbeinu had Dayanim that were all certified? The pasuk says Visatsu Sham Imcha. Imach means on the same level as you. Imcha means Medayim. Just as you're qualified, they have to be qualified as well. Says, how do we know? Imcha means that. Maybe it just means they stay with you with respect to the Shechina. Rashi said they shouldn't go, into the Beis HaMikdash, into the Kodesh HaKadosh, and they stay with you to keep away from the Shechina. Maybe that's all it means, in terms of, proximity, not in terms of status. Ella Amar, Rav Nachman Yitzchak, we have another source, that the Dayanim that Moshe Rabbeinu appointed were qualified. Amakro v'nasu itcha. Itcha means b'dayim lecha, comparable to you, qualified for their position. Says the Mishnah, Hoyru bezin shoygin. So it was an unintentional, shoygig ruling by the bezin. But also call shoygin, and the call followed suit with shoygig. Okay, this is your classic standard case of Mavin par to bring a par. However, Mizidin, the bezin issued a ruling knowing that it's a mistake. It was intentional. Chas v'shalom, right? But also shoygin, and the crowd just followed blindly. In this case, there's no par. Likewise. So, and what happens? Mavin kispa v'seiru. So each one, each person to his own, has to bring his own personal carbon. There's no sort of common denominator. There's no par which covers them all. Third example is, it's a pretty obvious example. We'll see in the Gemara what the point of mentioning this is. Shoygin v'aso mezidin. Let's say the bezin were errant in their ruling, but the tzibur knew. They were aware of the mistake. They realized that it's a blatant mistake, and they shouldn't have listened to the bezin at that point. V'aso mezidin. They followed through knowing that it's us. So once again, there's no carbon. There's no carbon at all because Harei L'Ptur, they're pata completely. There's no carbon when a person sins intentionally. So again, the last halacha is shoygin v'aso mezidin, Harei L'Ptur, which is an obvious halacha, but there's an inference to it, a diuk. Let's make a diuk. So in this case, there's no chiv at all because they're blatant mezidim. They're willful sinners. There's no carbon, which is an obvious halacha, and apparently the point is to infer from there that in a case which is somewhat similar, that has similar elements, they will be chayiv. Ha shoygig dumi demezet chayiv. If you can somehow concoct a case, a scenario which is technically a shoygig, there's an element of shgaga, but there's an element of mezet as well. So it's shoygig dumi demezet, comparable to mezet. There's an element of culpability, of responsibility. In that case, he's chayiv a carbon. You can't blame it on anybody. You can't blame it on the bezin. what's such a case? Give me an example. So if you recall, we had this in Abbeis. For example, Bezdin issued a ruling, and he implemented the ruling. But the reason why he encountered this situation was because of his own confusion. Yeah, the Bezdin ruled to allow this fat. Now, had he gone and just eaten the fat outright, he's potter, because the power of the Bezdin covers him. Thing is, he wasn't really planning on eating the chaylev. He thought this is shuman, permissible material. The fact is, he got confused. He mixed up. He thinking this is shuman. It was really the chaylev that the Bezdin was matter. And he ate it. So ultimately, he ate it because of his own mistake. So in this case, you can't pin the blame on the Bezdin. Yeah, in theory, had he known that it's chaylev, he would have eaten it anyways. But practically, he ate it because he just got confused. So in this case, he has to bring his own carbon. And that's why it's called shogeg. The shogeg means, yeah, he was a shogeg. And practically, he implemented the ruling of the Bezdin, but as there's an element of mezer, which means to say he's not really relying on the Bezdin. And the Mishnah seems to say he's chayiv. Right? Because only if they actually carried out the sin b'mezid, outright mezid, they're potter from any carbon. But this case, which is sort of in between, he's chayiv. Says the Gemara, if you recall, this was a question posed by Ramacham. What happens in this case? Perhaps now we have a resolution. And in fact, he's chayiv. Allah, so I'll tell you no. Not necessarily can you prove anything from this mission. Perhaps in this case it would be potter. And you can't really prove anything from the last line of the Mishnah, where we say shoygigin, the Bezdin ruled b'shoygig b'asam and the crowd followed b'mezid, their potter, which seems to be a very obvious, case. Why even mention it if not to teach us this, this inference and this in between case? No. Sometimes the Mishnah does that. It's sort of cites two opposites. I'll tell you like this: Mishum Tana Reisha Mezidin was shoygig on account of the earlier example, case 2 of the Mishnah, which was Mezidin, and they did b'shoygig. So we just flip it around, Tana Seifa, we go on and we flip it, and we conclude with the case of Shoygin Vasu Mezidin, which is a pretty obvious case. When you do a Mezid, of course you potter, but it's just, sort of matching language. But perhaps in my case, where it was Shoygin Dum in the Mezid, there was no way of knowing what the halach would be. The Mishnah is not really indicating anything in that regard. Okay, let's summarize today's daf. If the tzibur implemented the era of the Bezdin, and then there's no personal culpability, the Bezdin bears responsibility, there's a parhel and davar shel tzibur, but you have to meet a few conditions. But Elam Davar teaches us, it only works if the Bezdin were mistaken regarding part of a general issur. We have several sources for that. Elam Davar, achas mikol mitzvah, so we declare a from the Zalkei Mamre. But if they were involved in negating an entire concept, then there's no din of parallel and davar shel tzibur. Likewise, it has to be something which is somewhat ambiguous. It can't be something which is an outright pasuk, which even the tzdukim would agree with, and the Gemara will explain later, because it's considered negligence. Regarding canceling a single malacha, that was an interesting question. Regarding canceling Shabbos entirely, but limited to a certain time frame, concluded that's called bittul mitzvahs and kiyum mitzvahs. It's only considered a valid hayra if there was no dissent there was nobody telling them off, and only works if the chief justice was there and all members were qualified to serve in the Bezdin. And the power is only going to come if there was a hayra b'shoygig, and the call likewise followed and implemented the ruling b'shkaka. All the best to you, and hatzlacha.